importance of these two fingers, the thumb and the middle finger, being opposite one another on the football. Now, each kid's hands are a little bit different size and strength, and we've got kids here that range from freshmen in high school all the way through going into their senior year. So we have a lot of variance in the size of kids and size of their hands, so that will affect a little bit the grip. But we do think it's very important that these two fingers are opposite one another on the football. Now, where you can find the key thing here is the thumb. A lot of times with young kids, they want to put the thumb up on the top of the ball, and it's a comfort factor for them because then the ball can rest on the palm of their hand, and they feel like it's more comfortable that way so they can throw it. But really, that's where the problem becomes. It sits on the palm, and therefore they become a push passer, and they'll never be able to throw the ball down the field and make the touch throws and the hard throws and the high trajectory throws as long as it sits on the palm. So we got to work very hard on getting those two fingers opposite on the football. Now, a little self-check, and as we go through this, we'll try to have ways that a kid can check himself and make sure he's doing things properly. So if these two fingers are opposite one another on the football, he can control the ball. Now, what you'll find is when a kid puts the thumb on the ball, he no longer can control it, and the ball falls right out of his hand. So we're going to tell the kids, get those two fingers opposite on the football. Now, if you can, you'd like to work the thumb down as much as possible. And I think the older and the stronger a kid gets, it's more comfortable for him to get the thumb down. But the first thing is get it off the palm, get these two fingers opposite, control the ball with those two, and then as we go, we'll try to work the thumb down even more. Now, with the other three fingers, again, it depends on how comfortable a kid is. Little guys tend to put the index finger more towards the top of the ball. It makes sense that the ball is shaped in such a way the top is smaller, so a guy with a smaller hand is going to try to grab more of that part of the ball. A bigger kid, a kid with bigger hands, will tend to grab the fatter part of the ball. But each kid will grab it differently. The index finger should point towards the top. These two fingers opposite, and then whatever's really comfortable with the last two fingers. Now, you'll find different guys. A lot of them will throw with their little finger on the laces. And you'll find some guys and some very successful quarterbacks throw the ball with a little finger off the lace. So we're not going to get too technical about that. If a kid's having a problem, we'll experiment a little bit. But remember, these two opposite, thumb down, index finger towards the point of the ball, and then a nice even spread with the other fingers where it's comfortable with a kid. Now, we also talk about seeing daylight. It's important that the ball is controlled by the fingers so that if you look up into the sky, you can see daylight through the hand. Not when the thumb is to the point, as you look up, there is no daylight and the ball sits on the palm. So that is very, very important. The first thing a kid's got to do is grip the ball properly. As you come out and you watch kids throw at a camp like this, the most common fault to start with is the grip, and it really starts with the young kids because they start out throwing with, a baseball, a softball, then they go into a youth-type football. When they start to get to a regulation-sized ball, they do have to adjust their grip a little bit. Now, as we get into the next phase of the tape, we'll show some drills that we work on to help a kid get stronger with his hands and more comfortable gripping the ball. Next, we want to talk about the actual throwing motion itself. Now, we're going to start out talking about a pre-passing position. This is really important. When you're warming up, every time you make a throw with a football, it's important that you create habits. And you got to create the good habits. And we often talk about, it's like the great free throw shooter in basketball or the golfer or the tennis player, that they do the same things over and over and over again. They create habits, they create good habits so that when the pressure's on and in a game situation, they're going to fall back to those habits. So when you warm up throwing a football, it's the same way. We don't want to get in the habit of just flipping the ball around to loosen the arm up. We want to do everything technically sound. So the first thing we'll talk about is a pre-passing position. Now, we're going to stand with our feet underneath our armpits. We don't want our feet too wide, and of course we don't want to be standing on top of each other. But if we get our feet right underneath our armpits, the other thing we want to do is we want to stand tall. Now, you got to be an athlete, and you got to have the weight in the front of your feet. You want to be leaning back on your heels, but you want to stand tall, keep your height, keep your feet right underneath you. The next thing we'll talk about is the ball position. Now, if I'm going to throw the ball right over here, I'm going to stand with the football up in the chest to throat area. Now, we don't want to start with the ball at the ear. We don't want to start the ball down here at the waist. The ball's right up here in the chest throat area, 6 to 8 inches from the body. Now, as I stand, I got a pre-passing position. I got the ball in the chest area. I've got my left shoulder pointed exactly where I want to throw the football. My left shoulder, my left hip pointing at my target. And I'm here. So every time we start throwing the football, we want to get in habits in this position. Now, the next thing we do is we're going to talk about a push and pull. A push with the left arm and a pull with the left arm to get the throwing motion going. Now, we're here in the pre-passing position, ball in the chest area. We use our left arm. And everything we'll talk about here is in terms of a right-handed thrower. But you don't want to play with a dead left arm. You want to take that left arm and push the ball back. Now, also, it's important that as you push the ball back, you're pushing it under and back. A common habit you'll find is kids will push it up and get it up here behind the head in a very unnatural position. So we're going to talk about pushing it, but pushing it under. Now, as you see, a couple things happen. As I use my left arm and push, I'm pushing the ball under, so the point of the ball goes under, and you'll see my right elbow come up. My right elbow comes up, so I'm pushing, and you'll see also as I go, my left shoulder's turning, and really the transfer of the weight is on my back foot now. As I push, I got good weight on my back foot, the ball coming under. Now, at this point, I got to use my left arm to pull my body through, and that will help create the weight transfer from the back foot to the front foot. But as we go, we're pushing the ball back. Now, one thing you'll find is we push the ball under and out, and we get to this position right here. If we stop and just look at the ball, the point of the ball should be facing away from our receiver. The far point is away, the near point is directly at the receiver. Now, a couple things happen. It's the natural way to do it. A common fault, though, when we talk about that is kids want to push the ball up and out to get it in this position. That's not how it goes. Under, the elbow's out, and it's with the left arm pushing. Now, again, my left shoulder is still pointed. My left hip is still pointed at my receiver. Now, from this point, we have to come with the ball. And we'll try to give you some coaching points that as a thrower developing, you can think yourself to make sure you're using the proper mechanics. But as we push the ball here, now we want to use that left arm, and we want to pull ourselves through. Take that left elbow and pull ourselves through. As we come, the ball is in this position. Now, we're going to bring it, and we'll start talking about the elbow now. The elbow in throwing the football has got to be as high or higher than the shoulder, and the elbow leads. The elbow leads higher or higher than the shoulder. Common mistake. If the elbow's too low, as we come through here, we just flip the football. The elbow's low, and we flip the ball. And in order to make throws down the field, the elbow has got to be up so we can get that high release that we're looking for. So as we come, the elbow is higher than the shoulder, and the elbow's going to lead. And what brings that body movement is that left arm to pull, so that at the point of release, we've come around where now our midsection, our shoulders, our chest is squared up to where we're going to throw the football. Now, the next thing is the ball in its position, and we're going to get into that release point of how we release the football. The ball is back here as a result of the push. We come with a pull. Now, you want to get good wrist snap, and the wrist snap comes from the wrist position here with the elbow leading so that we can get a good snap. And one way of talking about it, and when we tell the kids at camp this, it's like you're in the shower room and at the PE class, and you got your towel. And you got the towel wrapped up, and you're going to snap it off and crack the whip on another kid. Well, if you take a towel, or if you take a whip, you're talking about that, and your wrist is right here, and you go snap it, there's no snap to it. The crack of the whip or the snap of the towel is by turning that wrist out and snapping it off. Well, that's really what you get when you're throwing the football here. As the ball's pointed back, that's where you got that wrist. Now watch, I'm going to come with that elbow leading, but I got a good wrist snap where I'm going to crack that whip. If you push the ball back and don't have the ball turned out and push the back directly here, I take the ball off. Now I'm in that position. All I can do is slap. That's a lot different than having that wrist back and leading with that elbow and snapping that towel or cracking that whip. So that's the kind of action we're looking for here as we push under and out. Again, I take the ball off. You can see the position of my wrist. Now I'm going to use that left arm, pull, snap the chest, elbow leads, higher and higher in the shoulder. But that's the movement of the upper body that's so important to create the velocity in the throw. Now, we're going to go into some drills here a little later on that are really good at breaking this throwing motion down that will help you. Next phase we'll talk about is what happens at the actual release point. And this is something, from the first time you start throwing a football, the key thing is you want to throw a spiral. You want to throw a spiral. Don't want to throw that dead duck. Well, the spiral phase of throwing a ball comes in the wrist snap right here. And a couple ways to check yourself. A lot of kids grow up throwing a baseball, and they throw a curveball, and they have a tendency to break their wrist this way, where their little finger goes down, their thumb comes up. Well, throwing a football is the exact opposite, similar to throwing a screwball in baseball, where the thumb goes down and the little finger comes up. Thumb down, little finger up, right? It's this action. Thumb down, little finger up. You also can think of it in terms of you hate to use this analogy, but it really is throwing a dart, where you throw a dart, and as you throw it, you take your index finger and throw it right at the dartboard. The problem with that is you throw with your elbow down, so we don't want to use that a lot in terms of throwing a ball. It's not like throwing a dart, but the actual hand action and the flip of the wrist is what we're looking for. So as we throw the ball, the wrist snap, thumb down, little finger up. And with the pressure on the ball, the last thing to leave the ball is your index finger. So as you snap the wrist, thumb down, little finger up, and the index finger comes off, that's what gets the ball going on its spiraling course. So that's important. Wrist snap, thumb down, little finger up. Now we're going to get into the follow-through phase itself. Like anytime you throw a ball or hit a ball, the follow-through is very, very important. In throwing the football, a lot of times, kids are taught two things. One, they're taught to throw the ball from the ear like a catcher in baseball, and that's not true, because if you throw the ball from your ear, look where my elbow is. My elbow's down, and you're going to flip it. And that's fine if you're going to throw the exact distance every time, but in the game, you're going to throw all kind of different balls, so you've got to be able to get that elbow up so you can make the different kind of throws. So we don't want to throw, that's a common fault with the ball right here at the ear. The other thing is you want to make sure that it's a nice, high, three-quarter motion. Now, it's an overhand throwing motion, but it's not directly overhand, because we often tell the kids this. If you throw the ball directly overhand, really your body's falling off backwards, and you don't have that real good body balance. If you throw the ball sidearm, now look where my elbow's at. A sidearm thrower, the elbow's down. So that's not what so we're really looking for a nice three-quarter motion where the hand's up here. And as a result, when we follow through, the natural mechanics of the follow-through will bring the arm down. Remember, we're throwing the thumb down, little finger up, and we'll bring it down, and the follow-through point should be right at the inside of your left leg. Right in this motion here. If I'm going to throw to my target here, as I throw the football, as I throw it, the natural action is you're going to come down, hits the inside of your thigh. But it all falls in place from the push, the pull, the elbow leading, elbow higher than the shoulder, the transfer where now my chest is facing towards the receiver. As I throw the ball, my natural follow-through motion, thumb down, little finger up, will come right down to the inside of the thigh. Now, we've got to get into what we do with our feet. Everything I talked about at this point is grip and from the hips up, and what we're doing with the arms and shoulders. The feet are so important as well. And we'll really get into that when we start talking about dropping back to throwing, because everything, once the game starts, is a movement. You got to get to a point and get your feet in proper position. And the more advanced a quarterback is, once you teach the mechanics of throwing, kids can get pretty good at that. Then you got to be able to get them to the point where they can move and use their feet. And again, we'll have drills to show you. When we talk about the feet, I'm going to go back to pre-passing position now, and what we'll just emphasize from the legs down. I've got my feet underneath my shoulders. Now, as I go through the entire motion of push and pull and all we're doing, and as I said, as we push the ball back, we're really getting the weight on the back foot. The weight naturally transfers to the back foot. And then as we pull, we're pulling our body weight, and then it's going to transfer to the front foot. Now, all we're doing with the front foot is just taking a short little step directly at the receiver, and you can't say that enough. A kid has got to learn to step and throw with the front foot. One of the common faults the kid will have, you want to step here and throw there. And you're just not going to be as accurate, you're not going to have the same velocity. So you've got to learn to step and throw directly over that front foot at your receiver. But a lot of kids want to overstride. We talk about that a lot. That they step, we say step towards you, well, they want to step here. Well, a couple things happen. When you take too long of a step, the most common mistake is you land on your heel. And when you land on your heel, it's like hitting the brake of your car, that everything just stops. And so we work so hard to get a good transfer of weight from the back to the front, and we lose everything when we hit the heel. The body drops, and there's going to be no throwing, there's going to be no transfer, there's not going to be any velocity on the throw. So we want to take a short stride directly at our receiver. And a coaching point that a kid can learn himself is that when he steps and he delivers the ball, you ought to be able to drive a stake down through the guy's chin, through the front of his knee, down to his toe. Everything will be in a straight line here. If he's out here, you can't get that done. So the front, the stride, the step is so important. It can't be too long. It's got to be directly at the receiver. And then there'll be a nice natural transfer of weight from the push to the pull where the weight's going forward at the receiver. The next thing we'll talk about in the follow-through phase is releasing the back foot. Because when you do throw the ball, you naturally release the back foot. And that's what gets the total transfer from the back to the front. Now, each kid will do that a little different, and even the great quarterbacks you watch. Some kids will throw, and it just naturally comes to about a parallel position. Some kids will throw it, and it just kind of naturally releases. You'll even see some kids throw it with kind of a high kick, and their leg will come up. But that's not important. What is important is that the back foot does come to complete the weight transfer. Another thing that a kid can check himself that he's getting a good transfer weight and shoulder turn is telling him, again, going back to the pre-passing position, I'm going to start throwing with my left shoulder at my target, and when I get done throwing, I want my right shoulder at the target. So it's a complete transfer of weight that the right shoulder comes through. So we start with the left, finish with the right. But those are the basic fundamentals of the throwing motion itself that we really work hard on at camp here. And that they're the same fundamentals we've taught for years because throwing the football really hasn't changed. We start with the grip. Remember, we want these two fingers opposite one another. We want daylight. We want to work our thumb down as much as possible. We want a good pre-passing position. We want our feet underneath our armpits. We want our shoulder directly at our target. We want the ball in a comfortable position. The next thing, we're going to push the ball back, under and back, under and back. We're going to push the ball, and then we're going to pull with our left arm and pull our shoulders through. The elbow's going to be as higher in the shoulder. The elbow's going to lead. At the point of release, we're going to throw the thumb down and the little finger up. We're going to transfer weight from the back to the front by a short step directly at the receiver, and our natural follow-through motion will bring our right hand down into the inner leg area, and we're going to finish with our right shoulder at the target, releasing the back foot. The next thing we'll go into are some drills that break down this throwing motion into the parts of the shoulders, the hips, the feet that we think will be very beneficial to you. Demonstrating our drills today is Sean Payton, and Sean is currently the quarterback coach at Miami University in Oxford, and Sean has also worked this camp for a number of years and is very well versed in the drills and has coordinated the camps at various locations. So he's going to demonstrate the drills. Now the first thing we're going to talk about is going back to the grip, and we've got some drills that will help a guy learn how to control the football and be good with it in his hands. So the first, we'll start with a grip isometric squeeze where Sean's got the ball in throwing position and he's just squeezing the football. He's controlling it with his fingers and doing everything he can to strengthen his grip. And you can have a kid do this for about 15 seconds at a time. All right, the next drill we'll go to is what we call squeeze drop. And this is a drill where he gets in the quarterback center exchange position. He holds the ball directly out in front of him, arms straight, and he just drops the ball and grabs it. Drops it, grabs it, drops it, grabs it. And it puts pressure on the fingers, but it helps him learn to control it. Now, you also probably want to do it with the left hand, just even though the kid's going to throw it normally with his right, but the more he can control the ball with both hands, the better off he is. All right, the next drill that we'll go to is what we call a wrist roll. And this is another one that simulates an option quarterback, but even if a guy's not an option quarterback, it puts pressure on the wrist and makes him control the ball with his fingers. And all he does is start, and watch how he throws the thumb under and extends the elbow. The thumb under, extend the elbow. Trying to put pressure on the wrist and also simulates an option pitch. The next drill that we'll go to is what we call behind the back. And in this, we're going to work very hard at exchanging the ball hand to hand as quick as possible, trying to control the ball with the fingers again, not cupping it and using the forearms and all. Everything's got to be done with the hands. That's the key to the drill. After that, we'll go to a through the legs, a figure eight type basketball drill where, again, controlling the ball with the hands and not cupping it with the wrist or forearms. After that, we'll go to a combination drill where we'll say for 30 seconds we'll just tell the kids to keep the ball moving. So we'll do everything other than the isometric grip. We'll go through the legs. These go squeeze drop. He's behind the back. He can go into a wrist roll type phase, but all he's doing is keeping the ball moving, and we'll go for about 30 seconds. Now, the idea here is we start at camp, we start each practice session off with this just as kind of a warm-up. But these are good drills that a kid can do on his own when he's at home or before his receivers get out for a workout. But the more comfortable the ball is in his hands, the better off he's going to be. Throwing drills, we usually start the campers on their knee. And we feel like these drills are the best at really breaking the throwing motion down to the specific parts. The first one we're going to talk about, now when you put a kid on his knee, really everything is his shoulders and arm. You don't get much hip action in it, and obviously you don't get any feet. So we're going to work hard. Now the first one we do is a high elbow, high release drill. And the emphasis here is teaching a kid to throw the ball with his elbow up. A lot of kids want to throw the ball with that elbow down, and we're going to really emphasize having the elbow high. Now, the point of the drill is, as we start here, Sean, you'll see, he's got his right knee down. He's got the ball extended out where he's got to have a full reach. His left foot is directly at his receiver. He brings the ball high and stops it right there. So it's very mechanical, but the ball is high in the elbow. Now we're going to, in one motion, turn the shoulders, and the ball just naturally turns with the shoulder turn. You can see where the ball ends up in that good position where the point's pointed away from his receiver, his left shoulder's pointed at the receiver. And now he'll come with a high release and a snap off where you can see the elbow leads, and the elbow's higher and higher than, is as high or higher than the shoulder, and he's got that good release with the ball with the thumb down and little finger up. So that's the high elbow drill, high release. The emphasis here, and again, I think the important thing is to know what each drill tries to do. This is working on getting that elbow up, getting a good shoulder turn, and as the body turns, the ball turns naturally. We don't want to take it up and turn the ball first. We want to let the shoulders turn, and that'll take the ball back. The next one we'll go to is a knee drill that we call push and pull. And this is where we're really talking, as I said earlier, about the shoulder turn phase, where the left arm will push the shoulders around in that good pre-passing position, then the left arm leading with the elbow will bring the body through. So with the high elbow is the release. This is the shoulder turn phase of the progression. And this is a very important one. Now, you know, it varies how many of these throws you want to make, but I think during any warm-up, you'd like to make 15 or 20 of these throws, you know, before each of your workouts begin. Good shoulder turn. Use that left arm to push around and then pull yourself through. We're going to take a side view of these two knee drills as well. So again, we'll go back and Sean will do the high release drill. And you can see as he turns, his shoulders turn, the ball turns out. and the good follow through. Over-exaggerates, bends the back, finishes with the right shoulder. Now we'll show the side view of the push and pull. Now the ball's up in that passing position. You can see how he takes that left arm and pushes his shoulders around, and then he uses that left arm to pull his chest and shoulders back into the good follow-through position. At the next phase of the progression are what we call our feet stationary drills. Now with the knee drills, you don't get the hips into the throw too much. Now when you put them on the feet, now the hips and the shoulders are what we're talking about. But we don't move the feet in the throwing motion itself. Everything's got to be done from the hips up. So we're really working on the mechanics of the body turn and the hip and shoulder rotation. Now there'll be 4 different drills that we'll do. The first one is what we call feet parallel, where we're just standing with our toes pointed towards our receiver, ball in a position. It's really no more than the push and pull method, a drill of the knee drill, but you can really see how Sean works at getting his hips around, his shoulders around, so before he throws the ball, he's really in that pre-passing position where the left shoulder is pointed towards his receiver. The other parts of the throwing motion don't change. Now, from there we'll go to what we call a cross body. Now all we're going to do is we're going to turn, and Sean will stand in that pre-passing position, but rather than stepping and throwing, he's going to keep his feet set. And so now he's got to start with his right hip and get those shoulders and his chest area turned so they squared up to his receiver. And that's part of just good hip rotation. Now this also really simulates throwing the ball on the run to the right. And as we get into those kind of drills later on, you can see that it's really important that the hips and the shoulders and the chest area are squared to our target. From here we'll go to what we call opposite shoulder. Now it's tougher because we have his right shoulder faced towards the receiver. And now to get that good pre-pass position, he's got to really use his left arm to turn all the way around to get his left shoulder pointed in the direction of his throw and get the chest and his midsection and all squared up. So again, the emphasis here is the hips and the shoulders getting good turn. Now you'll see him fall out of his stance after the throw, and that's just a result of his momentum going in the direction of the throw itself. Now the 4th phase of this is a little bit different in that we call it the opposite foot forward. Now we do move the feet a little bit, but we start with the right foot in front of the left a little bit, and he'll take a little short stride with that. But again, working on the push and pull, using his arm, turning his hips and shoulders. And this really simulates throwing the ball on the run, where he's stepping off that right foot when he's moving with the football. Now what we'll do is we'll go right into showing the side view of these 4 drills. Going back again to the feet parallel, looking at it from this angle. And I think the thing you can really see here is how much hip and shoulder turn there is and how that left arm can really help there, and then the left arm can pull his body through. Now we'll go to the across body where his feet are stationary, and now you can see where he really starts with that right hip. That right hip goes in the direction of the throw, which will get his chest and his shoulders squared up. The follow through, the release, all those phases are the same. Now we'll go to a side view of the opposite shoulder, and you can see how much shoulder turn there is to get that left shoulder pointed. And like I said before, this really simulates throwing the ball on the run, going to the left. So it's an excellent drill, particularly if a guy throws the ball on the run a lot, either with sprint outs or bootlegs. These are good drills. The last drill is then the wrong foot forward, where he steps with the right foot and rolls off the front of the right foot, again emphasizing the same throwing mechanics. Now, as kind of the conclusion of the static throwing drills, we want to start getting a little bit of movement in here. So we do 2 drills. The first one is called bounce to throw, where we put the quarterback, across from his receiver 10, 15 yards, and we bounce his feet around, where what he has to do is he's got to force himself to get in that passing position by moving his feet. And the emphasis here really is just all in the feet, making sure that they're underneath the shoulders, and then you take that nice short step that we talked about during the throwing mechanics phase. But we don't want to rush it, but it's a good way for a guy to warm up, bounce his feet around, keep his feet underneath him, take a nice short step and throw to his receiver. Following that, we go to what we call a miniature drop drill. And all we're doing here is just, again, demonstrating a little bit or simulating dropping back to throw, just taking a couple short steps like a little 3-step drop, getting a little gather step, keeping the feet underneath you, so that as you throw, sometimes we become so mechanical that, we don't get our feet going, and therefore when we drop back to pass in a game-like situation, our mechanics, we can't just be in a habit of throwing the ball standing still all the time. Now we'll do the side view of the same thing. We got to bounce to throw. We bounce around, feet underneath the shoulders, short stride, and a good follow-through. We'll do it one more time. Then we'll go to the miniature drop. Again, here the emphasis is just getting the feet moving, having good body balance, good position, so that as we go into the drop back phase or the sprint out phase, we've got a little bit of movement going in our workout routine. Now, the next phase of drills that we do here at camp that are very, very important are the movement drills. Now, there are 4 drills that we'll show you here today. The first one is what we call scramble drill, and it's a combination of a hip rotation, agility type drill, as well as kind of incorporating the bounce to throw. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make the quarterback move, and as a coach, we're going to give him 2 or 3 different directions where we send him at an angle where he's got to rotate his hips, but he's also got to keep his head back at the receiver. Then on a command of a clap by the coach, he'll snap his feet around similar to the bounce to throw drill and deliver the ball. Now, a couple things we want to emphasize here, just like the quarterback dropping back to throw. We want the ball up in a good passing position, and we want to work the ball. We want to have a loose upper body. We want to work the ball armpit to armpit, as we say, just to make sure that the kid doesn't run stiff. So we're going to go work here. We turn and rotate on a command. He'll set his feet, step, and throw the football. Now, this time we'll give him a different direction so that he's got to bounce himself all the way around. But I think, again, the thing you want to emphasize is the hip rotation, working the arms, turning the feet, and then on the command, bouncing around, stepping, and throwing to the receiver. The mechanics of throwing the ball never change. It's just getting the feet in the position in order to make the throw. But the next one we're going to do is what we call a back pedal release drill, and we're going to snap it off. Now, what happens in a game, you simulate so much, everything being done exactly the way the static throwing drills are, where the body position is perfect. Well, in a game, so often your throws have to be made off balance, and things can't be perfect. So we try to do this with the kids, just get in the habit of throwing the ball a little bit with an off balance, and what we'll do is we'll just start in the same position. We'll go into a back pedal, and on a command, the quarterback has to snap the ball off without getting his feet set. Then we may do it the other way, where he snaps it off and throws it to his left, just so that he gets the idea of snapping it off. And it's somewhat similar to bouncing it off on a screen pass or some kind of a broken play that may happen throughout the course of a game. The next drill we'll work on is the retreat drill, and here all we're talking about is the drop back, and we'll cover the drop back, the 3 and the 5-step drop here in a minute. But this is a good drill going into that phase of the workout, where we're really going to emphasize dropping on a straight line. Now, it's best to work where we're on a line so that the quarterback can check himself and make sure that he's dropping straight back and he's not getting offline on his drop. So we're just going to work, and you can see Sean working, and he may go 15, 20 yards. So in some ways it's a warm-up, just like the scramble drills, a hip rotation type drill. But we'll do it a couple times and make sure that the quarterback can check himself. That's why working on the line is best. And you can see where he's going straight back and staying on the proper course as he drops back into the pocket. A lot of times a problem with young guys and dropping back to throw is that they don't get in the proper position in the pocket and puts pressure on their offensive lineman. All right, the next drill we'll get into is what we call the avoid drill. This is really a nice drill, particularly if your quarterback throws the ball from the pocket a lot. Quite often in throwing the ball, there may be a little bit of push in the pass rush where the quarterback's got to move, a matter of a step or two to find that throwing alley. And this is a good drill that we're going to take our 5-step drop, And the emphasis point here is as we get into the pocket, that we want the quarterback to shuffle with the command from the coach, either right or left, forward or backwards. Now, the things we want to work on, one, we want to work with the back foot first moving. We want the back foot first because what that does, it always keeps the left shoulder pointed towards the receiver. So we'll emphasize moving the back foot first and the left shoulder always staying pointed towards the receiver because that's important. Once we open up, then we got to regather ourselves prior to the throw. And everything is rhythm in the passing game. So we'll see Sean take his 5-step drop with the command. He just works, watch his left shoulder constantly stay pointed to the receiver. Then on the command, he'll set his feet and throw the ball. We'll do that again, and we'll give a couple other movements into the drill. Again, a 5-step drop, keeping that left shoulder pointed, moving the back foot first, shuffling forward, shuffling back, always in a good passing position, so on the command when that receiver opens, he's ready to deliver the football. Now we want to get into the drops that we use here at camp, and the 3 primary drops. We'll do a 3-step drop, a 5-step drop, and a sprint out. And this is the way we teach it at camp, and I know there's a lot of different ways to teach these drops, and there's some basic fundamentals we believe in. We also think it has the greatest carryover for the number of campers that we bring in here. But we'll talk, not a great deal about center quarterback exchange because, again, each school does that a little bit different, and we don't feel like there's any right or wrong way to do that as long as you can get the ball from center and you're getting away properly. But in terms of the drop, there are some foot placements, some things that we will emphasize with our guys. First of all, we're going to teach here at camp a balance stance where we're going to have our feet, again, underneath our armpits, underneath the center, and we want to work hard to have the weight on the front of our feet. Now, we try to give a couple coaching points that may help a camper. Some kids naturally want to put the weight on their heels, and we don't want. We want the weight on the front of their feet so they can push off. We want their toes pointed towards the line of scrimmage. Now, some kids, 2 things can help a kid. One is if you just pigeon toe just a little bit, bring your toes together just a bit, usually you can feel the weight going to the front versus being toes out and the weight's on the heels. So may pigeon toe just a little bit, get the weight on the front. The other thing that may help a guy is to knock knee just a little bit. When you knock knee and bring your knees together, you can feel the weight coming to the inside, which will help balance him up so that he's got a good push-off foot. Now, we're going to talk in terms of with the 3-step drop, the 5-step drop, we're going to like everybody's a right-handed quarterback, so we're going to push off our left foot. The left foot, the weight's on the front of that left foot. We also tell kids if they have trouble figuring out what foot they're pushing off of, is to scrunch their toes in that foot, just as a reminding point that that's my push-off foot. Now, we're going to be balanced underneath the center, nice and comfortable. We know the weight's on our left foot. That's where we're pushing off. Now, we're going to talk in terms of giving and going. You give with the hands and go with the feet, because we don't want to take any false steps. We don't want to follow the center up into the line of scrimmage when we're dropping back to pass. We want to make sure we drive away from the line of scrimmage. Now, the weight's in the front of the foot, so as we drive, we really should be able to just pivot the front of the left foot. Just naturally should pivot, which will help open ourselves up. But on our first step, now I'm just going to talk in general coming away from the center, then Sean will come back out and demonstrate the 3 and the 5-step drop. So I'll step through it, then Sean will come out and demonstrate it. But we're going to work with our 3-step drop here. We're going to work on getting good depth on our first step. We pivot with the left. When I say pivot, just let the front of the foot pivot in the ground. We drive away. Now, as we go, we're going to bring the ball. We're going to seat the ball. We don't want to come out with the ball up too high. You never know if there could be a breakdown in the line structure where the ball could be out here and get hit and you could drop the ball. So we're going to work hard at driving the ball out from underneath the center, and we're going to drive it to our body, and really we want to drive it right to that right armpit. So as we come out right here, we're in a position where we're working. We talked about working the ball armpit to armpit during our movement drills, and this gets our momentum going away from the line of scrimmage. So our first step, we drive, we bring the ball to our armpit. Our second step is a crossover step. Now, that's where in the 3-step drop we've got to talk about the 3rd step, and we'll give you a couple different coaching points that we think are important. Now, it's different whether you're stepping to your right versus your left. When we step to our right, we talk about a cheat step. When we step to our left, we talk about a bucket step. So let's go right first. We got the first step, the crossover step. Now on the cheat step, we take and we go in the direction of our throw. We know on a 3-step drop we're going to throw the ball to the right. Now, with the right foot, 3 things you can think of to coach yourself. We drive, we cross over, we cheat. Now, we're going to say toe out, toe out, toe out away from the line of scrimmage. Because what we're trying to get with this right foot is when we push off the throw, we want to make it and simulate just like you're a baseball pitcher coming off the mound, throwing to your receiver where your foot's on the rubber. Just like that rubber is always at an angle where you push off directly at the home plate. Well, it's the same thing when you're throwing the football on your drop. You want to have your foot on that rubber, so you're going to throw it at the receiver. So in this step, it's toe out, puts us in a position now that we're pushing off that rubber. We want the instep of the foot faced at the receiver. So those are some coaching points that you can check yourself. If we're going on a bucket step to the left, now it's really toe in. It's 1, 2, now it's toe in so that the foot's on the rubber so we can throw the ball to home plate or throw the ball to the receiver like we are here in football. So it'd be 1, 2, toe in. It's a bucket step, coming up tall, ready to deliver the football. Now Sean will demonstrate the 3-step drop, and we'll go a couple to the right to start with, where it's 1, 2, and the 3rd step is a cheat step. But you can see it's all in rhythm. The quick passing game is a rhythm passing game where everything has to be 1, 2, cheat step, and throw. If there's any delay, there's no hitch step, there's no gather step, because the ball's got to be delivered at the proper time to the receiver. Okay, now we're going to throw the ball to the left on the 3-step drop. So now it's 1, 2, bucket. Now on the bucket step, you'll see where his right foot will be toe in, but again, simulating that right foot on the rubber, throwing the ball to home plate so that everything is in line. One other option we want to give the quarterbacks in the 3-step drop, a lot of schools will backpedal out when they throw the ball to the left. So we give them that option here at camp and work on it a little bit. And Sean will just kind of walk through it. If we're throwing the ball to the left, he backpedals, steps with his right foot, left foot. But the right foot still gets in that same position where it's toe in and the instep is squared up to the receiver. But what the advantage of this is seeing to the left. Some kids have problems looking over that shoulder and seeing the left, especially if they're throwing a quick hitch or a quick out. So Sean will go through it full speed here. We'll go one more time. The body position, the mechanics of the throw, all those will be exactly the same. It's just getting to that throwing point that's a little bit different. But the back foot is the same. But that is an option that we do give the kids at camp here, and it's something that a lot of kids like, going to the left. Now we don't to the right. We're always going to open and then cross over. Now our next drop is the 5-step drop, where we're going to get back in the pocket and throw the ball where we can use the entire field and throw it the medium level passes as well as the deep pass. Now the first couple steps are very similar to what we did in the 3-step drop. Our balance underneath the center, our drive away, bringing the ball to the armpit, the crossover. From that point, though, we have to be more conscious of getting depth. In the 5-step drop, the first 3 steps, depth is very important. We would like to go, and taller kids can get a little bit deeper than shorter kids, although the shorter kids, if they work at it, but we would like that right foot to hit 7 yards deep when we finish up the drop. And that's something that at camp, the kids don't know how important it is, but when you get back there at school where you've got your offensive line trying to protect, it's important that they know where you are in the pocket. So we're trying to sell hitting 7 yards with that right foot. But we're going to drive, we're going to cross over, we're going to get depth with the 3rd. Then on the 4th step is a crossover, but now we got to start slowing ourselves down so we can hit the brakes, so we can have our balance after the 5th step. So we'll teach the left shoulder pointed back down towards the ground, because what that does, as we hit 5, our body naturally comes up that we can gather and step forward. Now we will teach a gather step. Some people call it a hit step, but we're going to hit 5, gather, get ourselves in balance so we can step and throw. So it's 1, 2, 3, Fourth is a crossover. We start dipping that left shoulder, hit 5, and then gather ourselves up. And where are we? We're right back in that pre-passing position we talked about at the beginning of this tape. So now we can step and throw the football in either direction. So Sean again will come out and demonstrate the 5-step drop. Now what we're going to do with Sean is we're going to demonstrate 3 different directions that we're going to throw off the 5-step drop. We're going to start with a throw directly over the middle. The key thing here is the 5 steps of the drop all remain the same, but it's the gather step and then redirecting the feet and the hips and the shoulder so that we're throwing the ball over that front foot with the proper throwing motion. So again, the first one will be a throw over the middle. See him take the 5-step drop, gather, step, and throw. So the drop is key. From there it goes back to the throwing mechanics we worked on in the basic throwing drills. Now we're going to throw one to the right. Now you'll see we're on his gather step. He has to redirect his feet and hips so he can throw over the front foot. Now in this throw that Sean will be throwing to the left, and similar to what we did with a 3-step drop, the principle's still the same. That back foot has to hit at such an angle with the instep space in the receiver, just like throwing the ball off the mound as a pitcher. The gather turns his hips and shoulders so he can always throw directly over that front foot. Sean just demonstrated the 3-step and the 5-step drop, and going back to some drills we did earlier, this is a time when, again, you may want to work the avoid drill, the 5-step drop, where the coach gives direction to the quarterback, and he always works with his back foot first and his left shoulder pointed to the receiver, as well as the retreat drill. We'll work on the line and just go back 15, 20 yards, being conscious of staying on the line so the quarterback's in the proper spot in the target, in the pocket. So those are drills you may want to come back to at that point. Now the next thing we want to get into is our throwing the ball on the run. You know, here at camp with our 7-on-7 and when we bring the defense in, for the most part we're doing drop-back passing. But so many guys and so many schools are going to throw the ball on the run, either with a sprint out or a bootleg type attack. And besides that, you know, very few times in the course of a game does the quarterback not have to, you know, get flushed out of the pocket and ends up throwing the ball on the run. So we work hard here at camp to teach the concept, and we'll show you some drills now that we think will help you. Now in terms of technique of throwing the football on the run, the hips and the shoulders are exactly the same as all the other throwing motions. And you'll see as we'll go back to the feet stationary drills that we worked on, particularly the cross body, the opposite shoulder, and the wrong foot forward, which simulate throwing the ball on the run. The things you have to be conscious here, when the quarterback throws it on the run, the first thing he wants to do is he's running too fast and he overstrides. And when you overstride on the run, it's the same as when you overstride in the pocket. Your body drops. It's like hitting the brake of the car, and you have no momentum to throw the ball. So we're conscious when we're throwing the ball on the run. We're working the ball armpit to armpit. You know, we want to have good, fluid, upper body flexibility. We're pushing it side to side. But right before we throw it, we want to chop our feet down. We want to keep our feet underneath us so that when we step and throw, we can roll over that front foot and have good balance. Now, as we're throwing on the run, we're working, we turn the shoulders, we roll over that front foot, and we throw the ball. And all that is wrong foot forward drill. It's just what we talked about at the beginning of the tape. So the first fault that a kid has throwing the ball on the run quite often is overstriding and his body drops. The second thing that we find that a kid has a problem with is when he throws the ball on the run, he throws it and he leaves his arm up here and he watches the flight of the ball because he's not as comfortable throwing the ball on the run because he's so used to setting his feet. So we're going to concentrate when we talk about the follow-through here, that when we throw the ball, we tell the quarterback to keep going right at his receiver and try to get the ball back. But if you force the kid to throw it and run right after the ball, it forces him to keep his eyes on the target and bring that throwing arm down. Now there's 3 different drills that we'll work on here to show you throwing the ball on the run straight ahead, throwing the ball on the run going right and left, and then what we call a circle drill where we throw the ball going both ways, where the quarterback really has to work at getting squared up to the target. First we'll do is the forward and back drill. Now the first drill that we use to work on throwing the ball on the run is what we call a forward-backward drill. Now what Sean's going to do is he's just going to run on a straight line at his partner. And he's going to be under control, but he's going to concentrate on working the ball armpit to armpit. He's going to work on chopping his feet prior to the throw so he doesn't overstride. And then he's going to work on getting the ball back from his target by running directly at him, which will force a follow-through, very similar to what we talked about in the drop-back game. And then his partner will come at him. So the quarterback just works forward, good throwing motion, then backwards as his partner comes at him and delivers the ball. And again, he works forward. But everything is just working upper body motion, short stride, rolling over the front foot, throwing and getting the ball back from his target. Now we'll show this forward and back drill at a front angle. So you can see Sean working directly at his receiver. You can tell how he turns his upper body, how he chops his feet, how he follows through by going after the ball. The throwing motion never changes. All right, the next drill we'll work on is what we call the line drill. And this simulates throwing the ball on the run right and left, where the forward and back drill was directly at the receiver. Now we're going to be like we're running down the field, and the emphasis here is watching how Sean gets his body turned so that his shoulders and hips are square to his receiver. You never throw the ball on the run falling away. You always have to run directly at the receiver. And this drill, you'll see where he kind of loops in and out, which forces him to turn his hips and shoulders and his feet directly at the receiver, and he'll still use the technique of going after the ball to try to get it back. See how he works directly at? So at release point, it's very similar to the forward and back drill. And his partner just works along the other line and executes the same drill. But the motion and technique remains the same. The other way, it's like throwing the ball on the run to his left. Now he's got to really turn his shoulders and hips and use that left arm and use that push and pull method to get himself in the proper throwing position. Now this is similar to throwing the ball in the static drills of opposite shoulder. So we went from a cross-body static throwing drill, throwing the ball on the run to the right, to opposite shoulder, throwing the ball on the run to the left, and then the line drill that Sean just demonstrated is a very good one to get the feet moving and work on throwing on the run. The third drill that we work in emphasizing the throwing on the run is what we call the circle drill. Now we put a man in the middle of a circle, and the quarterback works direct, and circles him, but always working on throwing the ball, getting himself squared up, working towards the receiver. Then the man in the middle will catch and throw it back so that he can work throwing the right end to the left. So you'll see Sean going here, working, throwing the ball on the run to the right, and how he does the same technique with his feet, with his hips, with his shoulders, with his arms, and always going directly at the throw, trying to get it back, emphasizing the follow-through. And you'll see him throw, repeatedly working on throwing the ball on the run to the right. Now Sean will come back the other way, working on throwing the ball to his left. And this is a little bit tougher because he's really got to get his upper body around. But using that left arm helps to get the shoulders turned and the hips in a position that he wants to be in to throw the ball. Now, we've gone through the basic throwing drills, the movement drills, the drops that we use here at camp, but there's also some additional drills we think are really good that we can't use on a day-to-day, practice-to-practice sequence here for a number of reasons, but they're drills that we think that can help you, and particularly guys that have flaws in certain areas that you want to get corrected. So Sean's going to come out, and we're going to talk about a few of them and demonstrate them, and I'll try to explain the purpose of each one as we go through them. Now, particularly for the more progressed quarterback, we want to work on quickening the release. What is a quick release? That's from the point a guy sets the throw to the time that it leaves his hand. And it's not always his arm that's released. It's quite often his feet and his body position being ready to throw the ball. So this is one that I think for an older kid, it's awful good to teach him to quicken his release. Now, there are two different phases to it. The first one is called rapid fire, almost like the old hot potato drill that you do as a kid, where Sean will work from a throwing position, deliver the ball as quickly as possible. As the ball comes back, he's going to catch it, reset his feet, and deliver it as fast as he can. But the key here is, as you can see, is not necessarily how quick his arm is, but it's how quick he can reset his feet, which is what happens so often in the pocket, where you got to make a quick avoid, then you got to get your feet reset. The next phase of this drill, in terms of quickening release, is what we call clap drill. Now the quarterback stands in that pre-passing position, and he doesn't know when, but his partner will clap, give him the command to deliver the football as quickly as possible. So on the command, Sean will jump into action. But this is one where the feet are already set. Now we're really working on how quick the arm can work. Where rapid fire is more to get the feet set, clap drill is more to get the arm quickened up. Right here. The next drill that we'll show you is what we call a pop-up drill, and it's a re-drill for the quarterback where he's going to go through his 5-step drop, and we'll have 3 receivers out. 3 of them, they have their hands on their knees, and after he sets his feet, one of them will pop up. The quarterback's got to reset his feet and throw in the proper direction. You can see Sean reset his feet and deliver the ball to the receiver that pops up, trying to simulate never really knowing where the quarterback is going to throw the ball. Now we'll demonstrate it one more time where another receiver will pop up, and you'll see where Sean has to reset his feet and get in that good passing position. The concept we teach here at camp is throwing the long ball, throwing the deep pass. And I think it's one that's, with young kids in particular, they have a misunderstanding. You know, so often when they throw the deep pass, their mechanics really fall apart because they get intimidated by it. And they think that they've got to rush themselves, and they think they've got to completely change their throwing mechanics and their motion. You'll see that the kids will over-grip the ball. They'll squeeze it too tight. They'll get too much thumb in it. They'll lose their spiral as a result of it. The other thing that they'll do is they'll wait too long to throw the ball. You know, they get back, and then they stand back there thinking, waiting to see if the receiver gets open, and that's, you know, really not what we're trying to teach. We want to set our feet, take our gather step, and throw the ball. And quite often the problem is they throw the deep pass on a straight trajectory. We really want to get the ball up in the air. We want to throw the ball high. You can't get the ball high enough on the deep pass, and that's really a common problem. So we teach a concept here with their feet to try to help them with the trajectory of the throw on the deep pass, and then we'll tie it into what we call our trajectory drill itself. Now, when we're dropping back to throw, and we're going to throw the deep pass off a 5-step drop, you know we got a hitch step in order to throw it, particularly throwing the ball to the right. When they're back here and they're ready to throw and they gather and they throw, if you look at where my hip is and I'm throwing the ball out in this direction, they're throwing here, and really they're throwing all with their arm. And it's so important they learn that they get their hips and their rear end into the throw. And we use the comparison of a javelin thrower, that when a javelin thrower throws his javelin, you know, he's going to run down his runway, and just prior to the throw, he turns his back really to the launch point and really gets his hips into the throw, so that when he throws it, it's a lot of it's with his hips and with his legs, and it's not all with his arm. So the concept's the same that we try to get across in throwing the deep pass in football. That as we take our 5-step drop, rather than just taking the normal gather, we teach them to step behind, very similar to the crow hop that kids are taught in baseball. So as we hit 5, we step behind, and you can see what that does to my right hip. As I step behind, I get in a position where I can get more of my hips into the throw. And it also puts them in a position where they step behind, they can arch the back, and try to get the ball up in the air with higher trajectory. It's a real problem. A lot of kids want to throw that deep ball on a line, and they want to do it all with their arm, and that's when they underthrow the receiver. So we're going to talk step behind, arch the back, trajectory, get it up in the air. Now we'll teach this in what we call a trajectory drill. I'll bring Sean out, and then we'll demonstrate it. Now the trajectory drill we're going to work is very good at teaching the different types of throws that you make. Now a quarterback has to be able to throw the ball on a line, he's got to throw with touch, and he's got to be able to throw the deep pass. So we put the quarterbacks about 15 yards apart to start with, and we're going to make 3 throws. The first throw you'll see Sean make is throwing that hook pass, where we're just drilling the ball to our receiver. Then his partner will send it back the same way. The second pass we make from that same level is the touch pass, like he's throwing that flare route to the back coming out of the backfield, or on the swing pass to the sideline, where he's got to throw the ball with nice touch. The third throw that he's got to be able to make is the deep pass, where he's going to throw the bomb, so to speak. And that's where we incorporate the stepping behind, the crow hop, so that we can get the hips in the air and throw the ball up, up, up. We want to get trajectory. We can't get it high enough. Then after that, what we'll do is the quarterback will go back 5 yards and repeat the same 3 throws. So from a depth of 20 yards, we'll work on the hook or the square end, the drilled type pass. Then we'll work on the touch pass, where he's got to drop the ball over a linebacker's head downfield for whatever reason. And then the third pass will be the crow hop, step behind, get the ball up in the air, where he's really working on arching the back and getting the ball up. After that, he'll move back 5 more yards and repeat the same throws. Now, you would probably only go to a depth of about 40 yards, or as far as the quarterbacks can make 3 distinct throws. When all the throws become the same, then they've gone too far. Then they works himself back up at 5-yard intervals, repeats the same 3 throws, where the first one, again, we'll repeat them so that we can see. The first one is the drill, the hook. The second throw is the touch pass, where we're throwing the ball in the flare or over a linebacker's head, possibly on a screen pass. And then the third throw is the step behind, when we're going to get the ball up in the air and throw the ball with great trajectory. What we try to give you are the basic mechanics and drills that we use here at camp. And they've been very successful over the course of the last 20 years. And a lot of young quarterbacks have been developed. And the routine we've used repeatedly, and we think it holds up. First of all, the mechanics of throwing the football. We work hard at that here at camp, and then the throwing drills we use, from the knee drills to the feet stationary drills, where we're trying to teach mechanics. The movement drills are things that help simulate the game-type activity, and then the specific drops that we use. But we think that you as a quarterback can develop yourself if you're willing to work at these drills and give it conscious effort throughout the year. We hope they help you.